Hi, welcome to Stahls TV. I'm Phil Tarcy, and today we're going to go over VersaWorks, the next level. So in the class overview today, we're going to go over the queue settings, automatic update settings, nesting feature, printing the Rollin color charts, and some VersaWorks troubleshooting tips. So before we jump into those, we have a couple poll questions. Taylor, if you'd go ahead and launch those. We'll see what everybody knows about VersaWorks here. They're currently using it.
Okay, we're going to close the polls. So the question was, do you own a Rollin print cut device? And 57% of them said no, and 43% said yes.
Okay.
And the second one here, are you using VersaWorks as your RIP software? Okay, we're going to close the poll. And 86% of you said no, 14% said yes.
All right, so the goal today is to help those that use VersaWorks predefine some settings in their software to help with production. So it may be a little strange to some of you that don't use the program or own a Rollin VersaCam or a print cut device at this time. But please, ask any questions during the class, and I will do my best to get you those answers. So with that said, Taylor, let's jump over to my laptop so we can take a look at the VersaWorks. All right, so now we're looking at the Rollin VersaWorks software. So we're talking about queues. Those are basically file systems that we bring our jobs into for processing. So we have QA and QB. That's what Rollin defaults to. They give you two queues. They don't allow you to rename them, unfortunately. But so we want to make defined settings for these two queues to increase our production. So to do that, we're going to go to Edit and then to QA Settings. So it opens up the QA properties, and the first tab is our layout. We're not going to do anything there because that is determining our printable space, how many copies we want to print, things like that. So we're going to jump down to our Quality tab. So the Quality tab is where we're going to determine the type of media that we're printing onto. So I'm going to set this one up as a heat transfer media queue. So I'm going to go down and select the HTM2, and that is a profile determined or predefined for heat transfer. The next thing I want to do then is my print quality. So it gives me a few different options here. It depends on the media profile as well, how many print quality options you have. You have a high quality, which is 1440 by 720 DPI, extremely high settings there. Standard is 720 by 720, and high speed is 540 by 720. So for this application, I'm going to use the standard setting. And then I'm going to jump down to my color management preset. So this defaults to Prepress US, and that is the basic default for the standard settings for color representation used in the United States. So you can use that, or you can hit the drop-down arrow, and then there's a few other ones. There's Max Impact, there's Max Density US, Sign and Display. So selecting one of these other ones is going to basically add vibrancy or saturation to your prints. So depending on if it's a design that has specific colors in it you want to stay as true to as possible, you want to stay with the Prepress US. If it's something that you've designed and you want it, again, to be extremely vibrant, colorful, you may want to select Max Impact. So we'll just take the Max Impact and select that. So that's all for the Quality tab. Now we're going to jump down to our file format. This is important because there's an EPS margin, and you'll see this later on, but it defaults to 0. We want to predetermine this and go into a small setting. So we'll put 0.05. And let me just jump out of here for a second just to show you what I mean by this. I'm going to jump over to this BN20. So I have this, this job selected here, and when I double click on it and take it into the job settings, you'll notice here that it's clipping, and I can pull that in a little bit. You can notice that you can see the cut path here, and it is clipping off the edges just slightly. So if I were to go to print and cut this, it would print the file, but it would not cut all the way around it correctly. So that's where that EPS margin comes into play. So we want to predetermine that. So if I go into this setting here, or QA setting, go down to my file format, and then I put in 0.05, and then bring that job back in, because it doesn't affect any previous jobs, just ones going forward. Let me go out to my file, bring this job back in. So it's loading it into VersaWorks. All right, so there it is. So when I double click on it and I click on Fit to Media Size, now you can plainly see that it is allowing just a little bit of space around my design. So now it'll print and cut completely. You won't have any of those clipping issues. So that's the EPS margin. So we're going to go back over to our QA settings here, down to file format. And again, you want to make sure you have selected at least 0.05. Some people put in 1/10 of an inch. Depends on how much space. Now, the larger the number is here, the more space it's going to make that box, the larger it's going to make it. And then it's going to use up more media, because when you put multiple designs down, it's going to have more space in between them. So you want to keep that to a minimum. That's all we have to do for the file format. And now I'm going to jump down to my printer control. This one is pretty important as well, because when you select a profile up here in the media, it has temperatures predefined or built into your profile for that particular media. So if I don't change my heater control settings, if I just tell it to use the printer settings, whatever your printer is set at, that's what it'll print and cure the ink at, and it may not be correct. So you want to highlight that and go down to Use Default Media Settings. So as you can see, it's picked up my printer heater settings and my dryer settings for the profile that we selected in our Quality tab. So again, that's important, because if you just leave it at the printer control or the printer settings, it may not be warm enough or hot enough to cure the ink fast enough, and it could spread or bleed, or it could be too hot and it could actually scorch it before it's done printing, and you'll get undesirable effects. So those are the major settings we want to make in our properties, and we'll just clear this out now by clicking on, usually, depending on your screen resolution, I'll try to pull this up here. You can see the OK button in the bottom corner, right-hand corner here. But if you can't get to that, you can minimize this bar at the bottom, or you could just click on Clip and Tile, Variable Data, and hit Enter, and it'll save your changes for you that way. It's a little bit easier than having to manually go in and hide this toolbar at the bottom. So that's QA. So now you can go in and do QB as well. You can go in and maybe you want to set this up for a completely different media type. Maybe you want to do a glossy calendared vinyl for decals. So again, you can go through all those settings that we just went through, making sure that you go and change your heater controls as well. And so that way your queues will be set up. So now when I bring a job into, we'll just grab something here. I'll just grab that Titan, bring it in. So now when I double click on it, all I have to do is go to my Layout tab, hit Media Width, and tell it how many I want to print. And now instead of me having to go down to my quality tab, my printer controls, all I had to do was just get media width, number of copies, hit OK, and everything's ready to go. And now all I have to do is hit the print button, and it sends the job, prints and cuts. So that saves you just a few steps there, having your queues set up, and it'll help increase your production. Any questions on that at this point? Nothing so far? Okay. All right. So let's move on to our automatic update settings. So Rollin, when you receive your printer, you receive a disk, and it's it'll be installed either by yourself if you're using the BN20 with help from our tech team, or an on-site installation. So the installer will come in, install the software. So again, Rollin does periodic software updates, and really the only way for you to know if there's an update or not is to tell your software to go out to Rollin server, connect to it, and look for that update. So in order to do that, we're going to go to Edit and down to Preferences. So from here, we're going to click on the Rollin at Net tab. So your first option is check for updates automatically and notify. So we're going to highlight that. And then under the settings for the updates, it's asking for the site, which you can just leave at default, and then the frequency. So you have some options there. You have every launch, every day, every week, every month. So what that means is every time you open up VersaWorks, if you leave it at every launch, it'll go out and connect to Rollin server, see if there's an update. It only takes a few seconds. I would recommend maybe every week, because Rollin doesn't really update their software all that often. And then another thing you can do is go down to Update Options, and I'm pretty sure that this Download Updates for all languages is selected. You can just unselect that because it's looking at the default, which is going to be, you have this set up in English language. It'll just look for that language, pull down the updates. It'll minimize the download size. And then you can click on OK. So again, when you launch VersaWorks, it connects to their server. If there's an update available, it'll let you know. It'll tell you the size of the update and what it's going to be doing, and then all you have to do is click OK, and it'll perform the update. And then for you to determine what your version is of your software, if you go to Help and About Rollin VersaWorks, it shows you the version that you currently have. And this is the most recent version, 5.3.2. So that's just another setting. I don't know. I've run into a lot of, being a former technician, I've run into a lot of troubleshooting where the software wasn't up to date, and customers didn't have that automatic update installed or selected. Any questions on that, Taylor? All right, great. Getting through this here pretty good then. All right, so the next thing we want to cover is nesting. So again, this is all about production with VersaWorks, making sure that you have you're able to maximize your production times and the media that you're using. So with nesting, we want to be able to take multiple designs and gang them together in VersaWorks. So you can either gang things together in your design software, bring them over as one file, or if you have multiple files already separated in your queue, you're ready to go. So we'll take a couple here. I'll select this one, and now I'm going to hold my Control key down on my keyboard, and then I'm going to select a couple other. You can do 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. You can select a lot of different jobs. You can see they're all highlighted, and now this Nest button or icon in my lower left-hand corner is available. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to group all of these together. So now I can double-click on this, go into my job settings, and obviously the first thing we want to do is click on Get Media Width. I don't have any material actually loaded in my printer that I'm connected to at this time, but it would resize my workable space. Now I need to tell the software what I want to do with each one of these. So as you can see, this first object has the EPS margin box around it. So now I can go in and manipulate that one independently of the other two. So maybe I need to make that one 10 inches. So I'll go into my scaling, change that, and then I need 2 of those. And then maybe I want to jump over here to this Chiefs logo, and the job that I need for this is just going to be a small left chest or something. I can minimize that down to 4 inches. And then the last one, I need to leave the size as is, but I need a few of those. So this allows you to print multiple designs at once, independently of each other. And then there's also a little rearranged tile button here in the upper right-hand corner. So if I click on that, the software is going to try to figure out the best way to nest or group all of these things together to maximize your printable space, so that way you don't waste any media. After that, again, if you already have your queue set up, you don't have to even bother going in, because all of the predetermined or predefined settings will apply to each one of these designs. And then all you have to do is click OK and print. So again, nesting will help you maximize your media and produce a lot of different jobs at one time. So no questions on that one? All right. All right, so let's move on to the Rollin Color System Library. Do we have anyone that is currently using that library? If so, just go ahead and let us know. All right, well, the reason that that's there is Rollin, after they built these machines, people were trying to match colors, or they wanted to see what the color gamut their particular printer could hit. So they built the Rollin Color System Library, and it can be loaded into your CorelDRAW or your Adobe Illustrator, so that way you're able to use this color chart to maximize or to match colors that the customers ultimately want to hit. So to do that, first you need to print the chart off. So it's not like a normal job settings. You can't go and grab this chart. Like I said, it's already loaded into VersaWorks. So what we need to do is set our queue before opening this chart. The reason we want to do that, we're going to go into Edit into QA settings again. And we have to tell it exactly the type of media that we're printing on before we open the chart. So say, for instance, we're going to be printing this chart on the GCVP. So I want to select that, and I want to print it with the max impact color setting and with a high quality. So basically all of these settings on the quality tab have to be predefined before opening this chart. So once you have those set, now we can go into Media and then Color Chart Type 1. It displays what the color chart's going to look like, and from here we'll just click on OK, and it'll load that chart into your job list. So once that's loaded, now again we can double click on it to go into the job settings. It's going to pull the chart up, and the chart is 33 by 23 inches. So if it's a 30-inch printer, you can either do a couple things. You can click on Fit to Media Size, Media Size, and then that'll expand it to about 40 inches to 28.5. So pretty big chart. Or if you want to just print it across the paper, you can go down to 50%. It'll rearrange it that way, and then you can click on Fit to Media Size. So you're going to get a chart that's about 28.5 inches by 20 inches wide or long. So depending on the size of the chart, obviously, each one of these little tiles is going to be pretty small, so you may want to print it vertically, so that way you get a nice representation of each one of the tiles. On this chart, I think there's over 1,100 different predefined color values. So it's going to show you the color gamut of this printer. So basically what happens is the customer, you print this chart off on a particular media. Customer comes in and says, yeah, I need that particular orange in this design. So then you're able to use the orange swatch number off of this chart when you're in your Corel or your Adobe Illustrator and assign that particular part of the design, that color, so that way you know that the printer will hit it. So to finish this up, we're going to go down through our quality tab. Again, you can see we've already predefined this as a glossy calendared vinyl, so it's grayed out. I can't access this to change any of it, so that's why you have to do it in the queue properties before actually opening the chart up. And then the printer controls, since we changed our media type, I have to go in and click on Use Default Media Settings. So that way it gets the right temperatures to be able to print to and dry this ink on this particular media. And then from here, again, you're just going to click OK, and then you'll just hit your print button, and it'll print that chart out. Now, again, you may want to do this for a few of your most used medias or media because, printing a chart out on one particular media is not going to represent all of them because there's different white points, there's different finishes, like a gloss finish versus a matte finish. So when this chart is printed on all the different media available that you have, the colors are going to look slightly different on each one. So again, it's important to print those off on the different media so your customers can get an accurate representation of what their design is going to look like, the colors. All right, so that is the color library. That was just the regular Rollin color library. You can also go and print the metallic color library or color chart. Again, obviously you have to have a printer with metallic silver ink available in it. And then the setup's pretty much the same to print that chart off as well. So that is the Rollin color library. Any questions there? All right. So now we're going to move on to VersaWorks. So just about anyone that's using VersaWorks, which I think we have a small percentage that's using it, but there can be some glitches or issues that come about, and some of those issues can be caused because your VersaWorks is not up to date, maybe an incomplete update, so something happened during the update process, or corrupted jobs or art files. So to troubleshoot these issues, we can try some of the following things here. Again, you want to check your version. So you go to Help and About Rollin VersaWorks, just check your version. If it's not anywhere near 5.3.2, older versions can be corrupt and have some bugs in them, so you definitely want to update that. So again, the easiest way for that is under Edit and Preferences, Rollin@Net, check for updates automatically. But if you don't have that setting, there's another way you can go in to do that. You can go down to your Start button. You can go to All Programs, scroll down to your Rollin VersaWorks folder, open that up, and then Online Update. So we'll select that. It'll go out and connect to Rollin's server, and yeah, we have to have VersaWorks closed for that to work, so we'll do that again. And then click on Check for Updates. So once it finds if you need an update, it'll list the update and how big the file download is. You would just go ahead and click on Update, and it'll pull those down. Now for versions older than 4.0, I think there may be 2 updates needed because the files are so large. It takes 2 separate downloads to get it up to the most recent version. So once you have the first download done, if you're not sure, go in, open VersaWorks, go to Help and About, check the update version, and then go back out and do the same thing and get that second update, and it'll finish it off. And then you have the most recent version. So then, if you go ahead and launch VersaWorks and you're still having problems, with a particular file possibly, you can go in and maybe you need to delete that file and bring it back into VersaWorks. I've actually had some instances where I had the same file, an older file in my VersaWorks, and I knew it worked before, and then when I tried to use it, it kept crashing. So I would basically just close VersaWorks, restart it, and then that file would work. Sometimes I would have to delete that file out of my queue and then bring the file back in. Another case is maybe, for whatever reason, I've actually had a file where it was an EPS format. I went back into the native file and I saved it as a PDF and brought it in, and then that worked. So, you know, computers can be difficult sometimes. File extensions can give you trouble. So, but usually EPS format doesn't give any problems, you know, or PDF format. So you may have to switch a file to a different format to get it to work. So if those don't work, you may have to initialize the application, which is basically wiping out all of the settings in VersaWorks, and it clears out all of the data. Unfortunately, it clears out all of your queue data, all of your job data, and the IP address. And you're basically starting like it's a brand new install. So to do that, you want to close out your VersaWorks. You're going to go down to your Start button, All Programs, to your Rollin VersaWorks folder, and Initialize Application. But before you do that, it's very important that you write down your IP address. So there's a couple ways to do that. One is on the printer itself. If you hit your menu button and you scroll down to the System Info, then hit to the right and scroll down to your network setting, and then down to IP address. It'll display your IP address, and you can write that down. Another way is to go to Printer and Printer Status if you have VersaWorks up and running. And it'll show you here your model number, your port. So you want to jot down your IP address, because once you initialize the application, again, it wipes this information out, so you have to manually type that back in. So you need to know what it is. So let's go through that process of initializing the application. Close out VersaWorks, Start button, All Programs, Rollin VersaWorks, and then initialize the application. So it's asking, you know, if you're sure you want to do this, initialize the application, yes. And depending on how many files you have loaded, you know, that depends on how fast it does it. So the application was initialized, we'll hit OK. And now I want to relaunch VersaWorks. So when I do that, it'll open up with the screen asking me for the IP address. Now, if you have a BN20, it's not going to ask you for an IP address, because obviously that's a USB connection, so the settings would be a little bit different for that. All you would do is select, I would have it plugged in, and it would give me the option to highlight the USB selection, and then click on the port, and then it would verify it. So here's our printer settings. No printer is listed, so let's type in that address. It was 10.164.112.250. And then I click on Verify. It finds it. It gives me the model number, my firmware version, serial number, status, and then just we'll hit OK. Now from here, it'll continue to proceed to the software, and then as you can see, all of my jobs are gone. I had multiple printers here before, and now we just have the one that we connected to. So we would have to go back in to our Preference tab and redefine some of our settings. So it defaults to millimeters. We want to go back to inches. The Rollin at net, we need to go back and check for updates automatically. We can hit OK. And now I need to go back into my Q settings. So we go back into the QA. We would tell it we wanted, our heat transfer material on a standard with a max impact, and then our printer controls to use default media settings. And then we're ready to go ahead and do the same to QB if desired. So 99% of the time, I would say that the initialize the application works and fixes the glitch that you're experiencing. But if that doesn't, you can contact our tech support team. Just call in to the Stahls number, or you can email tech@stahls.com, and they'll get right back with you and help you get it figured out. Or you can also contact Rollin, their tech support, with any issues. So I have loaded here. I can send out to you right now or email you later if this doesn't work. But Rollin has an official document for troubleshooting your VersaWorks. So I'm going to see if Taylor can launch that handout now. If that doesn't work, just send her an email, type in a chat like you would like one, and I can email it to you. We're a little new spiff thing going on here with the webcast to see if we can get this to work with the handout section. But if not, I can email it out to you, and then you can have it on hand for all those things. And it goes even more in depth about file extensions and things like that. So it's a nice thing to have, at your disposal. Okay. So yeah, go ahead, and if you're interested in that, let us know through the chat here, and we can make a list, and I can email those out to you. All right, well, we got a little extra time here. So I have another little thing ready to go. It's the Rollin Profile Center. So if you were installed or set up before March of this year, your install disk only has a few profiles on it, but when you did the initial install and update, it would populate with all of the other profiles that Rollin had to offer. Well, they have changed that now because there's so many profiles available. It would really drag out the updates, so they created a profile center. So what you need to do is go out to rollinprofilecenter.com, and you're able to register there and create an account, log into it, and then it's pretty simple. You just tell it what device you have, what ink configuration you have, and then what media that you're looking for, and it'll list all of different profiles. I forget how many's on there. There's quite a few, plus there's also some other third-party media available. May not be available for every device that is listed, but it's going to be out there. Now the Rollin will be for every one of the Rollin devices that are available. The profiles are there, but I think it even says on there that if you do not see a particular media profile for something you're using, to contact Rollin, and then they will get in touch with the manufacturer of that media and try to get a profile built to be loaded onto that profile center. So that's a really good resource when it comes to different profiles for VersaWorks. So that way, because being a former technician, I've come across a lot of customers that were using just the generic vinyl profile, the very first one, the media type. They would never change that under the quality tab. So it's pretty important to use the correct profile and the correct heater temperature settings for each media, so that way you get the best results. So any questions? Ask me what the weather's like here today in Uniontown. It's overcast and cold. It's fall. So, okay. Well, we have a couple upcoming events. Again, next Monday, the 31st, we have the Stahls TV morning show at 11 a.m. Please tune in for that. That's always entertaining. And on Tuesday, September 1st, we have Courtney Kibitza with 8 fall apparel trends and how to heat print them. So Courtney always puts on a good class, and I'm looking forward to that because I like to be fashionable myself. So please contact me or Stahls if you have any questions on the VersaWorks, on the Rollin VersaCam series, or any of our digital printing devices. Thank you for attending.